Welcome to the Broncos podcast with Troy Renck. I am your host, Troy Renck from the Denver Post. Well, ding dong, the witch is dead. The drought is over. The Broncos have reached the postseason for the first time since 2015. A couple of nasty streaks into this year. So let's enjoy that moment. Broncos country, take it all in. Soak it all in. You've earned it. You've been catfished for 8 years, and now the playoff drought is over. First time since 2015, the Broncos are in the postseason. First time in 7 years they have a winning season. The Broncos are back in the playoffs where they belong. The NFL is better when the Broncos are good. For 3 decades, about every other year, it felt like they were going to a Super Bowl or in danger and certainly capable of making a deep playoff run. These last 8 years are something you haven't seen unless you've been a season ticket holder, frankly, since the inception. It was the worst stretch of Bronco football since 1963 to 72. Most of us weren't alive during that time, certainly didn't have season tickets. And so that stain has been power washed off of this franchise. The Broncos, in case you didn't hear, are back in the playoffs. And they did not back in, folks. I'm going to get into that. For all the people whining about their schedule, and they only beat 2 teams with a winning record, including the Chiefs team that was sitting 13 players, including 3 future Hall of Famers in Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones. Listen, they don't make the schedule. They won 10 games, and they learned how to beat bad teams. There's a skill in that. If you don't like that they didn't make the playoffs, tell the Jets to play better with washed-up Aaron Rodgers. Tell the Dolphins to win 1 game that's not in 70-degree weather. Tell the Bengals to win more than 1 game in September. Broncos won 10 games in the AFC. They need not apologize for that. So miss me with the Broncos backed into the playoffs. No, they didn't. You look at the aggregate. They won 10 games. Andy Reid always hits. He always does this. It's not the Broncos' fault they secured the AFC top seed before coming to Denver. You just play the games in front of you. And they went in how you're supposed to go into the playoffs, in full throttle. And there's some numbers here about this Broncos team that makes them dangerous because they now head folks to Buffalo as a heavy underdog, anywhere from 7.5 to 9, depending on the book you use. Huge underdog, but a scary team. As Sean Payton said, they're young and dangerous. I wouldn't think anyone outside of maybe their friends and relatives are going to predict the Broncos to upset the Bills, given that the Bills are undefeated at home this season. But the Broncos are dangerous, and I want to get into some of those trends. Look at what Bo Nix did on Sunday and how he collectively, his remarkable rookie season, where the Broncos defense excelled in ways that we didn't think were imaginable, ways, frankly, we haven't seen since the days of Von Miller and Malik Jackson and Derek Wolfe and DeMarcus Ware. And then we take that peek at the Bills. Take an early peek at the Bills. Again, that game is Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern. It'll be 11 o'clock start here in Denver. The Broncos' first postseason appearance since Peyton Manning retired. Peyton was in the house yesterday. He saw the game. He appreciated it, as you might imagine. He's a Broncos fan. And for you, Broncos country, enjoy it, savor it, and don't hear anybody. Don't take any clip from anybody who's trying to shame the Broncos' playoff berth. They've been terrible for 8 years. They're in the playoffs. There's no qualifier. They're in, and they're young, and they're dangerous. We're going to get to all of it after the break. Have you been injured in a car wreck or hurt at work? What are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggett Injury Law a call. Their motto, with us, it's personal. I've known Darby Hoggett for years. We traveled the country watching our sons play baseball. I became his good friend. Many of his clients become his good friends. You don't even have to pay Darby up front. If your case goes planned, Darby will be the one writing checks to you. So again, if you're hurt in a car wreck or injured at work, give Darby's team a call at 1-833-HOGGATT. That's 1-833-HOGGATT, or visit the website at hoggettlaw.com. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. They've got the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college hoops, NHL, even UFC. So head to BetOnline today. And don't forget, use this promo code. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV. That promo code again is BLEAV for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Welcome back to the Broncos podcast with Troy Renck. I am your host, Troy Renck from the Denver Broncos. Thank you for listening from wherever you are, on your laptop, on your phone, driving to work. Broncos country, it is a raw 25, 30-degree morning. Nothing worse than scraping ice off the windshields, but it's a little easier to do, at least in these parts, when the Broncos have won. If you haven't noticed how the mood changes when you're at the store, you're at church, you're at running errands, when the Broncos win, then maybe you haven't lived here long enough. As someone who's lived here for 5 decades, I can tell you that the mood of the state often is reflected by the results of the Broncos Sunday games. And the Broncos are going to the playoffs. I'm watching a highlight video right here on my phone of Bo Nix running a lap around the field, Cal Ripken style, after Cal Ripken broke the all-time consecutive games played streak. There's Bo Nix running all the way through, giving high fives, picking up stuff to drop, high-fiving pretty much every fan he can. He admitted afterward, hey, I got a little tired. And I want to show that clip here later. But Bo Nix gets it, folks. Bo Nix gets it. So let's get into the first thing. The Broncos win or get in playing game. Essentially, Sunday was a playing game. It was colored by the fact that the Chiefs were resting starters. We understand that. But the Broncos took care of business. They didn't mess around. They had touchdown to Marvin Mims, touchdown to Courtland Sutton, touchdown to Devon Bailey. How in the Lord did he make that catch? Good Lord. That was one of the best catches of the Broncos season. Ball tip, looked like maybe Adam Troutman gets a paw on it. 3 people are hitting it. And there's Bailey, who supposedly ran the wrong route, but he's right there, and he makes a hustle play and picks the ball from going off the turf about an inch before it goes off the turf. That at the time kept Bo Nix's streak of consecutive passes completed going. He finished with 18, and we'll get more on that. But the Broncos were just throttled the Chiefs. All they had to do was just take care of business, and they were in the clear. All they had to do was hold on, run out the clock, and there was 6:46 remaining in the second quarter. This game was over. For all of you that on social media that reached out or emailed me about how Carson Wentz, he's so dangerous, he beat the Broncos in 2017 with the Eagles, give me a break. Have you watched Carson Wentz play in the last 3-4 years? He is not good, folks. He's not. Could he be your backup? Yeah, he could. He's an emergency type backup. Could be functional at times. He had starters around him. But this idea that he beat the Broncos when he was with the Eagles, that was 8 years ago, 4 teams ago. He's been on the Colts since, the Washington since, the Rams since, now the Chiefs. Give me a break. He was terrible yesterday. And again, he's playing with backups. But I don't want to hear how he was going to upset. I told you this. There's no way Bo Nix was losing to Carson Wentz. Even if Carson Wentz had played with the rest of the stars, say Kelsey's out, but the rest of them, they weren't beating the Broncos yesterday. Now, if Mahomes plays, all bets are off. We understand that. He could go down as the greatest or the greatest of all time. Carson Wentz is not that, and he was awful. Bo Nix, by comparison, folks, take it in. If you want to put this season in perspective, before we get talking about the Bills and the concern they might get just absolutely devoured like a wing coated in ranch dressing at the Anchor Bar, just understand where this season started, where we are right now. Just understand that. The season started with the discussion and framing the expectations around Bo Nix. Could the Broncos leave this season knowing they had a franchise quarterback? That, for me, was the main goal. I picked him to win 6 games. Reframed expectations along the way and said after they lost to the Chiefs, they were going to the playoffs because of the investment, the emotional investment I saw from that team in that locker room afterward. Guys that cared, guys that took it personally. It mattered to them. A lot of Broncos teams after that game would have pointed the finger and played the victim, as they always did. They always had an excuse for something. That team did not. And when I wrote in my column after the Chiefs lost, that loss is going to be the reason they win enough games to go to the playoffs. But The season began with, can they leave knowing they have a franchise quarterback? Well, folks, I think we answered that as unequivocally as possible. Bo Nix just put together the best rookie season ever by a Broncos quarterback. And frankly, if we're keeping it real, one of the best statistical seasons ever by a rookie quarterback in the NFL. I'm not saying this makes him some future Hall of Famer, but I do believe it shows you he can be a top 10 quarterback in this league, be a Pro Bowl type quarterback, and someone you can trust to get you into the playoffs. And once you get there, we got to see how he's going to play. I don't know that yet. But this kid has proven a lot of things this year. We've learned, that he's a fiery competitor, extremely coachable, but has a backbone, not afraid to stand up to his coach and argue when he believes he's right. He doesn't curse. His leadership is done much more by example and attention to detail. But more than anything we learn, this kid's a winner. He's a winner. And you see that the way he plays, the discipline from which he plays, the decision he makes, the way he protects the football. He gives the Broncos a chance to win. And he's learning that delicate balance in the NFL to be able to take care of the ball and take chances. Because if all you're concerned about, you watch Caleb Williams is taking care of the ball and never throwing a pick, then you take 75 million sacks. Bo Nix doesn't take sacks, folks. That ruins more drives than holding penalties. When you take a sack, your chance of scoring on that drive go down by about 90% in the NFL. It's not college. It's not. Nix doesn't take sacks. And you look at his overall stats and where he finished up, it is impressive. It is an impressive rookie season. And don't qualify it with Sean Payton this. It doesn't need to be qualified, folks. He went 10-7. His completion percentage was 66.3%, 3,775 yards, 29 touchdowns. That's second most ever by an NFL rookie to Justin Herbert, who had 31, and 12 picks. So almost a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He was sacked 24 times in 17 games. Russell Wilson averaged 50 sacks a season, his 2 seasons in Denver, and he missed games. He missed like 4 games during that time. So double the sack rate. That's impressive, folks. Let's just call it what it is. It's impressive. If you want to qualify it and say that, the schedule was easy, the NFC South stunk this year, whatever. I'm just saying, every rookie plays his own schedule, and he just put up the second best numbers ever by a rookie. And yesterday was his best game. And the Chiefs' defense stunk. We get it. But the guy he had 18 straight completions to start the game. That's the second longest streak by a Broncos quarterback since Hugh Millen in 1994. But he finished 26 of 29, 321 yards, 4 touchdowns. Oh, yeah, he led the team in rushing, 7 for 47. That's an impressive year. And he finished running the football this year. I mean, he really slowed down. I think at one point he was more hurt than they let on. But he ended the season with his rushing stats. Let me find those because those are also impressive. I believe his final rushing stats are 430 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, 41 first downs. Also, did I mention that he got a touchdown pass? So listen. By any measure, Bo Nix has been an unequivocal success. If you're still someone who's saying Bo Nix isn't a franchise quarterback, that's on you. That's you making it personal that you clearly wanted them to draft someone else, or you just don't like Bo Nix. Whatever. And you listen to the draft people way too much. Well, he can't be good because he was the 6th quarterback taken. Just trust your eyes at some point, folks. Does he have flaws? Does he get out of his, get in his own way sometimes with his footwork? Does he struggle at times sometimes after a turnover? Yes, he does. You know who else does? 99% of young quarterbacks. But none of them, outside of a handful, have ever produced the stats he produced this year. And again, it's not just the stats. It's the fact that he is viewed as a leader in his locker room, his work ethic, his professionalism, that he's a guy you can win with. That is huge as you move forward. Huge. Sean Payton described that skill set in Bo Nix and just his growth. mean, Payton knew, folks. And this is why I wrote, and you can look it up because I'm certainly I'm wrong at times. But I wrote that I love this pick. I believe Sean Payton was right. I did a podcast titled, What If Sean Payton is Right About Bo Nix? Because Sean Payton's entire legacy as a coach to reach the Hall of Fame was connected to this decision. He's the one who cut Russell Wilson and absorbed an $85 million dead cap hit, $53 million this year. And that included, so with $53 million and other moves, the Broncos had 89 to 91, depending on what Matthew used, of dead cap money this year. So Payton's entire legacy was on getting this decision right with Bo Nix. And he saw something in Bo Nix that he believed he could be the guy. I still think they lean on him too much. I think Payton asked him to do too much because they don't have enough playmakers. I had 6 most dropbacks in the NFL this season going into the finale. But the reason I believed it could work is because Payton believed it could work. He's an offensive wizard in terms of his play calling, and his entire chance to reach the Hall of Fame depended on this final chapter. Not only getting the Broncos back on track, but at some point maybe getting them to a Super Bowl. And it's worked. Listen, there's no other conclusion to draw other than it worked. And so that's what you take away from this season, number one. Broncos ended their 7-year streak of losing seasons, their 8-year playoff drought, and they found a franchise quarterback. No other way to say it. No other way to say it. Bo Nix has proven he's the guy. Just no other way to say it. He made history this year as the first quarterback with 3+ touchdown passes and a 75% completion percentage in 4 games this season. The last guy to do that for the Broncos, Peyton Manning, did it 4 times in 2012 and 2013, which happened to be 2 of the greatest NFL passing seasons of all time. Bo's not Peyton, but just putting it into perspective of how well Bo's played when he's on a heater. So let's consider that. And this team, they followed the culture created by Sean Payton. I question Payton's decision-making against the Chargers being too aggressive before halftime, and then, frankly, almost cowardly against the Bengals and not going for 2 to win that game. But this team has followed the culture he's created. They buy into the idea of young and dangerous. Nobody believes in us. We can do damage. They buy into it, and now they're back in the playoffs. So credit to Payton, credit to his staff, credit to an offense, folks, that is so much better than what we've seen the previous 8 years. If you want to know why the Broncos are in the playoffs, it really goes back to having a functional offense. Because the reality is they've had playoff defenses through the years. There's just over these years since Manning retired. Their offense has not been functional. But according to my man, Parker Gabriel, a great colleague from the Denver Post, the Broncos finished the regular season number 10 in scoring offense, 25 per game. They did not average get to 21 points a game before Sean Payton arrived. So consider that. They're number 3 in scoring defense at 18.3 per game. So their average differential, 7 points. Score 25, give up 18. Offensively, they scored 28+ points 8 times, all wins. And they are one of the best offenses in the league over this last stretch of games, 4 or 5 games. They're averaging over 30 points a game. And I don't think you could discount that when you see a team that's heading into the playoffs. Now, again, they're given about a 40% chance to win this game at the Bills. We'll get into that. But that's the reality of what they face. But you're talking about a team that's hot offensively. It's hot. Courtland Sutton's part of that. I mean, you look at Courtland Sutton, a guy that had 2 touchdowns in his previous 26 games before Sean Payton got here. Over the last 2 seasons, 18 touchdowns on 225 targets. That's with Russell Wilson and obviously Bo Nix. But Sutton, another nice season. And again, I appreciate what Sutton's done in terms of buying into the humility, the we over me that Bo Nix described. There's no diva behavior on this team. Siri would get lost in the locker room trying to find troublemakers and idiots in that locker room. There's a lot of smart football players, a lot of guys who are unselfish. That's how typically you turn things around when you don't have top high-end talent at a bunch of positions. Sutton personified that. Garrett Bowles, he was the longest tenured Bronco. He gets to the playoff. But again, this all worked because Payton created the culture, talked about if Hackett was Sesame Street, Payton changed it with the Compete Street sign on the practice field, the discipline, the culture, the buy-in. You had to find a quarterback in Bo Nix. It was not going to work, folks, under Russell Wilson. And I'm not slandering Russell Wilson. But if you watch that Steelers-Bengals game on Saturday night, that was a snapshot of Russell Wilson. Makes a handful of breathtaking plays. He has 3 or 4 brain freezes that are just not befitting to someone of his experience, where running when you got to throw the ball out of bounds, taking a sack where you can't take a sack. Those are things Sean Payton's done with. Doesn't mean you can't win with Russell Wilson. Sean Payton didn't believe he could. So he gets Bo Nix. And you got a defensive Vance Joseph when you add John Franklin Myers, you add Malcolm Roach, you add Riley Moss, you add Brandon Jones, you drop your fangs and become aggressive, and you end up with 63 sacks. So that's part of it. But I want you to hear from some of the key players in this turnaround. I want you to hear from Bo Nix afterward, what this meant. Sean Payton on what this meant, orchestrating this turnaround. Courtland Sutton on what he's seen from Bo Nix, what it means to actually get to the playoffs. These are 3 critical figures in helping the Broncos get there. So let's hear from the Bo Nix, Coach Payton, and Courtland Sutton about the win, but more specifically about reaching the playoffs for a franchise, again, that's had a storied history, but man, that was a long drought. So let's hear from the particulars after the big win over the Chiefs.
Well, I learned I got to run a little bit more during the week because that's a long little lap. I was a little tired at the end, but the fans deserve it. They've been, it's been a long time coming, and they deserve it. They showed up, they were loud for us today, and it's fun to do stuff like that. It's fun to clinch a playoff spot, and the last game of the year against a divisional team, and it's just kind of a great story. But now playoffs time starts, and our goal wasn't just to make the playoffs, even though it hadn't been done in a while. It's for a lot more than that. So we're excited about the opportunity. It's going to be tough, but we got a game to play.
Bo, Sean talked about being young and hungry and how that could be dangerous, because when the season began, externally expectations weren't great. How much pride do you take in being part of a team that ended the losing season streak, the playoff streak, and just kind of a bunch of guys that seemed to buy in?
Yeah, we did. We just we have a really good team. We have a lot of guys that are all competitive, all work hard. They're close knit. We got a lot of good relationships on this team. You can really feel and watch the love for one another that we got. Then we go out there and play for each other, play for the guy next to us. There's not a lot of prima donnas on our team, not a lot of issue makers, and we all have one goal, and that's to go out there and win for our team. And it's funny, we kind of doubled what a lot of people thought we were going to win. So it goes to show that a lot of talk preseason, but you don't have to be what people say you're going to be.
If you said what's most important, look, it's not compensation. It's not, it's how your peers think of you. And so that's as a coach, as a player, how you're thought of, and having a chance to, I have experience, but this idea of this long verse book of experience, I've only started at another club one time, so it's not like, you follow me?
Right.
But I know it starts with the right people in the procurement of what you're looking for vision-wise. I know that, and I learned that, and man, we had a good off season.
Got a rookie quarterback, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, they had no idea what we had in this locker room and what we have in this locker room and the type of player that Bo is. Bo isn't your, average rookie. You know, he comes into, like I said, comes into work like a veteran. You would, if no one knew that Bo was a rookie this year and you just saw how he worked and saw how he played on the field, no one would say, oh, that's a rookie, you know. And I admire that about him. I admire that he doesn't allow the outside circumstances or the outside noise to try to determine the type of player that he's going to be. And he has so much more. I've told y'all before, it's only the beginning, man. I'm so excited I get to experience Bo Nix's career. And however long I get to experience it, I know he's gonna play a lot longer than I will. But however long I get to experience it, man, it's a fun experience to be on. It's a fun roller coaster to ride, as you can say. And man, he got so much more. It's only the beginning. This isn't a farewell to Bo's rookie season, man. He got a lot more in the tank going into this rookie season, and you know it's dope to see him carry an organization and a team to the playoffs after not being in the playoffs for 9 seasons.
Welcome back to the pod. I'm Troy Renck, obviously from the Denver Post. Hope that gives you a little flavor of it. They had a reason to be proud. They had the dance club popping afterward in that locker room. Enjoy the wins. It's hard to win in the NFL. You know, enjoy it for a few moments. They know they got Buffalo facing them. They went to Buffalo. Remember, they went to Buffalo last year on Monday night. The joke is they spent like a week in Buffalo because they flew out on a Friday and then their plane got stuck. So they were there like an extra day. So they were there like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, got home like Tuesday night. It's not the vacation you'd normally take. Let's say, honey, let's go to Buffalo for a 5-day vacation in November. But they won there. They got lucky. Missed field goal by Lutz. There was a penalty, and but it's still at least a little bit of recent success in that environment on Monday night. That crowd was rowdy. That crowd was getting after it, and they won there. Obviously, that was Russell Wilson, and credit to Russell. He made an amazing play in that game to Courtland Sutton. But this team is, at least a lot of the guys on this team have experienced success in Buffalo. So that doesn't hurt, folks. That does not hurt. When you think about, hey, is this a place that could go to win? But you look at what the Broncos have done. They get back to the playoffs. They put on a show. And why are they dangerous? Why are they dangerous? Well, it's not just the offense, which is averaging 32 plus a game over the last month. They get after the quarterback. And when you can make a quarterback uncomfortable, you have a chance. Now listen. Quarterback chance against Josh Allen, different arguments. Allen has won in wild card games. He's played best games. He's had games more touchdown passes and incompletions in wild card games. He gets hot and he's dangerous. But this isn't a great Buffalo team. It's a team, one of those sum of the parts type teams. The difference from this Buffalo team is they have balance more than they've had in the past, and they also are able to use the backs in the passing game. But when you look at the Broncos, why are they dangerous? Folks, as you're driving, as you're listening to this, consider this number. The Broncos finished with 63 sacks, the top 10 number all time in NFL history. 5 yesterday. So don't say, oh, they got like 12 yesterday against Carson Wentz. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They got 5. It's about their average for the season. They had Nick Bonito get 13.5. They got Cooper in double figures. You got Zach Allen at 8.5. You got Jonathan Franklin Myers at 7. You got just a bunch of guys contributing and getting after the passer. And when you have multiple pass rushers that can get home, that's a good place to start. And 63 sacks, as Pat Surtain said yesterday, that is tied directly to improved coverage. When you pressure and affect quarterback, coverage improves dramatically because routes get off time, quarterbacks throw sooner than they want, everything changes. And the Broncos get after the quarterback. Credit to Vance Joseph. He's going to get some head coaching interviews this offseason, as he should. I think there's already 5 openings. I don't know if he'll get a job. It's an offensive league, and offensive-minded coaches typically are going to get the first pick. But Vance Joseph has earned a second shot at being a head coach. Didn't work out his first time in Denver. We all understand that. I've defended that to some degree. He wasn't ready. He was drinking out of a fire hose, but management, Elway, the assistant Matt Russell, the infrastructure undermined him, and not being allowed to pick his coaching staff There were a lot of things that went wrong. You look at how he's coached this season. You look at how the players respond to his coach. That's a guy that could be in charge of a team again. He could. He's earned that opportunity, and I think he will enter multiple times this offseason. But 63 sacks, folks. So if you want to know how they have a chance, they do because of that. Now, again, Josh Allen is a different animal because of his ability to run and escape. But sometimes when he tries to play Superman is when you can get him into trouble, where he'll commit turnovers. They're going to be a huge favorite. We all understand that. He's had an unbelievable year, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. You know, he's not a guy that's going to get sacked a lot. That's not, even this year, that sack number, he's at 14 sacks. That is an incredibly low number, less than 1 a game. And last year was 24, so he started to understand last year how to get rid of the ball more quickly. But 14 sacks, the Bills' offensive line is really good. That is going to be the challenge up front for the Broncos. But Josh Allen has learned to dump the ball down. His completion percentage, when you start with his rookie year, he was at 52%, 58%, and now he sits anywhere between 69. This year he was right at 64. He's just become a better passer throughout, and he's just better decision maker. But he will get after it on the ground, and that is the danger when you rush him. You've got to keep him in the pocket. He gets outside. He's a running back, folks. I think you all understand that. Those of you who watched him at Wyoming, I know you do. But you look at his rush this year, 50. You're talking about a guy who had 102 carries for 531 yards. He will run the football. He's not afraid to run the football. And he will score when he gets in there. I mean, he's just a guy that is very, very dangerous on the ground. And you're talking about someone that can convert third downs that way. So, again, when you talk about the Broncos upsetting the Bills, it starts with a great pass rush, but a controlled pass rush where that mushroom type rush, the shell rush, you've got to keep Josh Allen from getting loose and running, getting outside the pocket, making plays. Can you force him to step up where you can get pressure, interior pressure from a Zach, Malcolm Roach, DJ Jones? But when you talk about the Broncos and why they're in a position, in this position in the playoffs as a 7th seed, don't sleep on the defense. Don't sleep on the pass rush because they have put it together this year with 63 sacks. It has been, I mean, again, they have one Pro Bowler, Nick Bonito, one first-round pick in Pat Surtain. This isn't a defense loaded with stars. These are guys who just bought into a scheme and have gotten progressively better. But defensively, they finished second in yards per play, in net passing yards per attempt, and rush yards per attempt. Again, you look at how they won this year. They found a quarterback who takes care of the ball, doesn't take sacks, stays for the most part on schedule. They got a defense that can create turnovers and is dramatically improved against the run as opposed to last year and can get after the quarterback. So don't sleep on that. Don't sleep on that. But now you bring on the Bills. And again, folks, enjoy this. So it's the Bills. They might go there and get absolutely smashed. Who cares? The Broncos, again, they're not terrible. This isn't a team that's limping into the playoffs. They lost 2 of their last 3. They should have beaten the Chargers, could have beaten the Bengals. Since week 11, do you realize the Broncos are the 3rd highest scoring team in the league at 32.6 a game? I mean, let's not lose our head to think they have no chance. Again, the Bills, they've been here before. They made the postseason 7 of the last 8 years under Sean McDermott. 6 straight seasons in the playoffs for Josh Allen that he's playing on wild card weekend. In those games, he completes 70% of his passes. He's really good. He's really good, and they're more balanced. But defensively, they have been showing cracks for weeks. When you look at what they've been doing on 3rd down, and this comes from Pro Football Network. Thank you for their email and some of these stats, but Pro Football Network sent these along to me. You look at excluding week 18 because they didn't play their stars, but their trends on 3rd down. Week 6 through 13, 36% conversion rate. That's good. Defensively, they're getting after it. Weeks 14 through 17, teams were converting at a 57% rate. I watched them get just blitzed by the Rams in LA. I mean, they're vulnerable at times. Can the Broncos take advantage of that? I'm not sure, but they're vulnerable. And you got Amari Cooper who's struggling right now. Pat Surtain, he just puts a do not disturb sign on one side of the field. So if he can take Cooper out, I'm telling you, the key to that game then becomes pressure on Allen, keeping him in the pocket, and limiting the yards after the catch and passes to the running backs. Because that's where the Broncos are vulnerable, is coverage by linebackers in space on these little short hitters, swing passes, tunnel-type screens. But the Bills' running backs are dangerous, starting with James Cook. They use them in the passing game. Broncos are going to have to be better in coverage there. They're going to have to tackle well because you cannot allow those dump downs and swing passes to be 8-9 yards. You cannot. Those have got to be 4-yard gains because if the Bills are in 2nd and 3 and 3rd and 1, Josh Allen is an absolute Wes Craven nightmare. But if you can get them into position where they're in 3rd and long, they don't have great receiving corps. They moved on from Diggs, Stephon Diggs, which I think was to their advantage, but they don't have just guys you look outside. They don't have T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Gesicki. They don't have that. Now, their tight end group is good with Dawson Knox. That's a good group. That's a problem for the Broncos, but they're not loaded offensively as maybe were a few years ago. But keep an eye, and we'll talk more about this later in the pod here this week, that Broncos' ability to cover the running backs and tackle in space to limit yards after catch. But they have a chance. They have a chance. We're talking about a team that's somewhere between a 7.5 to 9-point dog, probably a 35 to 40% chance to go win there. But again, it doesn't matter if they win. They're playing with house money. They were predicted by odds makers to win 5.5. I picked the over at 6. They're at 10 wins. They did not back into the playoffs, folks. Anyone that tells you that, you can tell them with a straight face, they're full of it. They won 10 games. They're 10-7. They played the schedule given to them. If you don't like the Cincinnati is in, not in. They lost to the Patriots the first game of the season. They won 1 game in September. Take it up with them. Take it up with the Dolphins, who couldn't win in cold weather. Take it up with the choking Jets, who are going through another coach change and are getting ready to move on from Aaron Rodgers. All the Broncos did was go to the East Coast when they were 0-2, beat the Bucs, beat the Jets, save their season, find ways to beat the Colts, rally past the Browns, and when they had to have a game at home, they beat the Chiefs. I don't care if it's the reserves or Taylor Swift's backup dancers. They beat the Chiefs. And they were impressive doing it. They're a team with confidence. They're a team that's played well offensively. Again, 32 points a game over the last few weeks. Since week 11, frankly, that's a nice stretch you're talking about. Averaging 32.6. Defensively, 63 sacks. Starting to regain their footing after a couple of really tough nights against the Chargers and Bengals. And they got nothing to lose, folks. They're the ugly guy in the fight. So enjoy it. Enjoy it, Broncos country. You've earned the right to appreciate this. Crawl back, pull your head outside the covers and look up and say, the sun is out. I'm going to appreciate this. I'm going to appreciate the positivity in life. I'm not going to allow any negativity. There's nothing bad about them going to the playoffs. It's a great experience. And if you lose, you learn from that experience and what it looks like. It becomes a measuring stick. And if you win and you go on the next round, it gives you even more confidence entering the next season. There's nothing bad about going to the playoffs, folks. And the Broncos have earned it. They're back for the first time since 2015. I will be there in Buffalo. I cannot wait. There is nothing like playoff football. And Broncos country, you earned this. You deserve it. So enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed the pod. Again, it's a fun time. Usually at this pod, we're talking about coaching changes, roster changes, and draft order. Not this time. We're talking playoffs. The Broncos are back in, baby. I could not do this pod without the great folks from Mile High Sports, Nate Lundy, Big A behind the screen who produces it. They're the best. Darby Hoggett, A1 from day one. And, of course, Bet Online, the new sponsor. Broncos country, I do this pod for you. Happiness that begins with me. Go out there and have a great day.